conmigo y hasta creerás y me dirás te quiero, pero si un atardecer las gardenias de mi amor se mueren, es porque han adivinado que tu amor me ha traicionado, porque existe otro querer.
Okay. You want to hold?
You know, gastronomy has a global voice by creating a dialogue through food. Cooking takes on a communication of its own that exceeds local tongues, allowing people to interact in a mutual understanding that doesn't rely on language. That's one of the most amazing things that I've found on my travels, the way cooking unites all types of people.
So this is where we're going to actually try what the locals eat, what they call their Cuban sandwich. Very different than what you see in Miami. I think it's just ham and the cracker-like bread that they press on la plancha and the press with maybe butter and cheese, and that's it. So stay tuned as we're in line. We're going to eat. We just finished eating flan for breakfast in Sangaria. Now we're going to have a Cuban sandwich. We're just going to eat as we go, stop as we go, and film as we go.
¿Cómo se hace esa salsa? ¿Qué?
No, eso viene de la fábrica, una lata.
¿Pero qué? ¿Tomate? ¿Tomate y qué más?
So 2 whole,
Esta mitad y ahora uno más, otra mitad.
So we're eating a sandwich right now, and it's just ham and the pan on la plancha. They press it. There's some kind of garlic or something flavor in there also. I don't know if it's butter or cheese, but something brushed inside of the bread. I don't know if it's guava. Is it a guayaba? I don't know, maybe a little bit of guava spread. It's really hard to describe. You can't mimic this without the right kind of bread. I'm in heaven.
Directamente, no hay manera, no hay que echar la pelota. Orilla la vaina. Muy bien. La galleta, ¿cuánto debo?
Cada cosa vale $1 o 25, son 12 euros, 50 pesos más.
So this is a galleta de mantequilla. It's like butter crackers, very light, airy. And then we got a log here, and they call it the Matrimony. It's the marriage between the guava and the leche. So this is kind of like a fudge. It's produced, cooked down condensed milk until it gets nice and tight and sweet, and then they actually made a log on top with like a guava paste. So the two together is the happy, presumably happy marriage. So we're here at Tammy's Cakes. We were talking to Frank about where the best place to go to get the pastelito con guayaba y queso. And he said, well, I'll take you to my favorite place, you know. And this is actually a place that Simone had written down that we had written down already, but we just had it on the low end of the list. But he said this is the best. So now we're here. We're going to go inside. We'll see what they have. So this is a rice pudding. So it's set up with all the starch from the rice. And actually, I grew up in Granny Lily used to make rice pudding, like tapioca, you know. It's good, really good. It's sweet, sticky, a little spice from the cinnamon, but I love that texture.
No sé lo que dice. Sí. También para de carne también.
¿Qué
So this is pastelito con piña. Son
¿Un paquete de carne de
dos. Piña. Solo una piña. Un piña, un carne. Ask your father about this name. Wait, ask your father what this name is.
All right, so you were saying that earlier you have a memory?
See, yes. This was like, these are called cabezotes, but what I remember was they were cappuccinos. And they were more like shaped like the cone of an ice cream. But you see how it's...
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
You see squishing?
Yeah.
The syrup that's inside.
Just like I remember.
Yeah, it's got the texture of tres leches, you know, because it's a cake that's been soaked in liquid. So in this case, it's like simple syrup. Sugar and water in the pastel. So it's cold too, it's refreshing.
Yeah.
So Yanesi Azaharis is one of those people that we had to have on our list, coming back to Cuba. And her story is unique in the sense that she's from Cuba and really wanted to start her own business, do something that Cuba hadn't seen before. She wanted to study gelato. She wanted to bring gelato back to Cuba, something that wasn't here. Thinking about young entrepreneurs, you know, we just left Tammy's Cakes. I wanted to know if she knew her.
¿Conoce a la gente de Tammy's Cake?
Sí, lo conozco.
At Tammy's Cakes, pastries were dark, you know, like dark color. They brought the laminate doughs, the pastry itself, to further than most people would take them, because to me, that's a sign that someone knows what they're doing. Because for me, when I use the laminate doughs, the croissant or the dough, and you bring it, and you, yeah, that's what he was saying last night. He said it's separado, you know, it's just hard to work with any of the butter. But I mean, anyway, you know, cooking it further brings out different flavor, and when it's blonde and flaccid, it just seems lifeless. And the one that you have, the patalula, is delicious. After having 2 restaurants in the United States and knowing what it's taken from me, working in other kitchens for 16, 17 years before having my first, and then how hard it was for me to open my first restaurant, I'm just, you know, I'm in awe, and I think it's great. That's why, you know, I was attracted to trying to have a conversation with her, because I just think knowing the difficulties about ingredients and everything else, and then learning about the cooler that she has and all the problems she's getting a single part. You know, for me, in my business in the States, it's one thing to get open. You know, you do all the paperwork, you find the money. Okay, ta-da, I'm open. But then the real work begins, right? Because for me, it's all about marketing and it's social media. And I saw you celebrating when she got the part worked as we were leaving yesterday.
Sí, cuando llegó el motor. Te vimos que estabas muy contenta.
And I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
So the deal was, you know, she had her refrigerator, her cooler, with all her beautiful display of 16. Yeah, so 16 gelatos laid out, and there's a part missing or whatever broke on the refrigerator. So she had to order a part in Mexico. Yeah.
Her husband went to get it.
Her husband had to go all the way to Mexico to get this part, and they got it, and it didn't work. So we witnessed her getting the part yesterday for the most part, and installing it, and then celebrating when it was fixed. These are the things we don't have to worry about. You know, it's one thing to be able to replicate a recipe, a formula, you know, in this day and age, you know, especially with desserts and ice creams and gelatos, it's really all about the formula. But the one thing that we take for granted in the United States is the access to the ingredient. Right. Well, that's what you use the other syrups for, like trimoline or inverted sugar or dextrose or glucose. Yeah, it's giving you know, the gelato is very different than ice cream. You know, it's about a texture. You know? It's about getting the right, you know, using. I'm sure she uses a refractometer. You know, to read the Briggs levels and you know what.
Un refractómetro para la luz. El refractómetro sirve para medir el nivel de azúcar.
Right. Yeah, I mean, even in school, you know, I have one, and I use it, especially when I was using it to create new flavors because you start with something that's sweeter than something else, like a different fruit that has a different level of sugar.
Sí, la fruta nunca es igual. Aquí nunca jamás la fruta es
Cuando
igual.
el fresco, like 2 months ago, the mango is sweeter than it was 2 months. Oh my
She
God.
says that here, the sugar and the fruit is never the same.
When you use a fresh product, that's all over the world, but I'm sure even here with the climate and everything, it's got to be extremely different. I mean, that's why you start with the fructometer, because it tells you exactly where you are. You know, when I learned 25 years ago about making ice creams, we had refractometers obviously then, but I learned by putting an egg, a raw egg, in the mix. So I'd make a sorbet, and I would put the egg inside, and it's about the density of the egg, the raw egg floating in a shell, the whole egg. And so you're looking for how much of it was at the surface showing. It's about the density that showed how much sugar was in it. She was this just delightful, powerful, confident young woman. So another guy, that had to be on the list was Alberto Gonzalez, known for his breads. He's a baker by trade, has a couple businesses, pizzerias, and kind of a cafe. What's unique about Alberto is, he lived in Italy for 15, 16 years, came back to Cuba, his native country, and he had the sort of entrepreneurial bug to bring back to Cuba with lack of ingredients and resources, but his breads were something that you don't see in Cuba. You don't see the sizes, the shapes, the different seeds, the textures. Cubans are known for their bread, but it's one bread. It's the Cuban bread. Pan de Cubano is known all over the world, and that's the story that we're after today.
So, what's going on is a new explosion here because, everything was just stuck or sort of a status quo for a long time. So now all of a sudden they're bringing in just a new thing, the fusion. And he's making a distinction between culinary and gastronomy. Sure. Okay. But at the same time, it's all going towards nutrition.
For me, that's how I looked at it. I looked at it as kind of a food revolution in a sense. People like him are forging the way. And even hearing from the girl last night about what it takes to go out and learn something else and bring it back is extremely different because you can learn it there, and then now the real work begins.
En el 1876 se crea el primer pan.
In 1876, they made the first Cuban bread, national bread.
Se crea. Pero nuestro primer pan es el casado. Estamos hablando de años anteriores.
Sí, sí.
Pero el primer pan que se crea en Cuba, que es la mayoca. La mayoca, que es el pan que comía José Martí. Que es el pan de maíz con miel.
The bread that José Martí ate is bread con honey and miel. Corn and honey.
Que es el pan de los mambis. Ese es el primer pan que se funciona en Cuba.
So yeah, that's what he's saying. He's talking about the first bread of Cuba, and Jose Marti, it was a bread that was mixed with maíz molido, corn. Yeah, corn flour or corn and honey, and made a bread out of it. So going that far back, and that's kind of the first bread, and then now we're talking about that was the first.
No sé si tienes pedido, del cuarto negro esclavo liberto.
Of four, he's the grandson of 4 slaves that were freed.
Que fue el primer negro liberto de apellido, mi apellido Ceballos, González Ceballos, esos dos apellidos juntos, es español, es de Galicia como tal. González Ceballos.
González Ceballos, from Galicia, Spain.
Mi abuelo, mi vivo antecesor, uno de los negros de Ceballos,
one of the black men from Ceballos, that name
fue
Ceballos.
el primer hornero de la cera del Louvre.
He was the first oven man. ¿De dónde? De la
Cera del Louvre, Hotel Inglaterra.
En la cera del Louvre,
Se llamaba
Hotel
así.
Inglaterra. The first oven man, or baker, probably baker.
Así que yo no puedo decir que mi cocina inició como realmente me gradué en el 92, sino inició en ese periodo. porque la vengo inculcada en la sangre.
Yeah, he says he can't say that he learned when he graduated in '92 because it's in his blood. Convent. And the woman that cooked there, her name was, ¿cómo se llama?
María Teresa
El convent es una cosa diferente, ¿eh? No es lo mismo un colegio de monjas que un convento.
Bueno, pero le dicen lo mismo en inglés, creo yo.
Ah, ok, pero el convento es
cuando van a
clausura.
Sí,
Y el colegio de monjas es un colegio dirigido por monjas, pero de estudiantes que
sí.
no son...
No están fabricando monjas.
Exactamente, ¿no?
So, see, yeah, it was really not, in the strictest sense of the word, it's not a convent. Because we use the word convent kind of both ways. But he wants to make sure that this was a place where nuns taught girls. It wasn't about young girls going in to become nuns.
Yeah.
So, but the first person, the baker there, with el apellido
Juana Ceballos Pérez.
Juana Ceballos Perez. And Ceballos, as we know, one of his and she's retired now, but she was a nurse anesthetist. And he was at the University of
Y
Havana.
mi papá, mi difunto padre,
His
era,
late father,
era militar.
he was in the military.
Decía, tú sabes, ¿no? Hay que tener un título.
Yeah, you gotta have a title.
En los años 80, en Cuba,
In 1982.
era una cosa de trabajo.
Eso igual, sí. So, a chef or cook, chef in the 80s here in Cuba was not it wasn't a distinguished thing. Like, I said, you remember? Yeah.
Even in the U.S.
In the U.S. A chef is a much more respected profession now.
Because of television.
Iba a ser cocinero.
His grandmother would tell him, you're going to be a cook, a chef.
So, I mean, did you go to cooking school? Did you go to culinary school? That's what I wanted to know.
Sí,
I know it's in his
¿Te
family.
educaste formalmente? Porque
No, yo empecé Derecho en la Universidad de La Habana.
estudiaste Derecho.
En el primer año me fui. El segundo año.
Mi papá estudió Derecho.
El segundo año me fui de la colina.
So you went to 1 year.
Regresaron de la
Wait,
casa.
he went to law school at the University of Havana, and after a year of that, he left.
Okay. Fui a resuelto.
Okay.
La mapa no va a faltar.
So grandmother said, here, this is during the special period, the beginning of the special period. His grandmother says, we're not going to need any lawyers, we're not going to need any doctors, but the chefs, the cooks, are always going to be able to have a job because everybody's got to eat all the time.
So he was just saying, that he was saying that here, he was making it about Cuba, that this is the weakness of all chefs is desserts. And I said, in the U.S. it's the same, and then he commented and said, in the whole world, worldwide, it's very technical and very precise. And chefs are about kind of just tasting and flavor and throwing things together and putting it, and it's perfect. But this, you have to dial in, it's formula, it's different. So it scares a lot of chefs.
Hizo un chef.
Ultimate connection today that we made with Alberto was, he very similar paths we took, and that just brought us even closer together today in sharing our stories. He dropped out of law school, and because of that, his parents kicked him out of the house. So he had no choice but to live with his grandmother, who took him in and allowed him to live with her. And she said to him that with all the uncertainties of Cuba, that you need to be a cook. You need to be in the kitchen, because what she knew in her wisdom was that everyone needs to eat. No matter what happens to us, we all have to eat. So you'll always have a job. So with that in mind, not a blessing that his parents gave him, but he followed that path that his grandmother gave him and allowed him to sort of chase his dreams to be a chef, a cook, a baker. I immediately shared with him the story of, me coming back from college, finishing, dropping out of college, coming back to New Orleans, my father kicking me out of the house, me running to my grandmother and asking her for money to help me follow my dream, which was to be a cook, a chef. And so she's the one that put me through culinary school. So he really, really got not a kick, but, we immediately became, that much closer because we shared a very similar story. Our paths the parallels were amazing.
¿Y la cocina?
Explicación y degustación de menú. En el Comodoro. Él era jefe de cátedra.
So he was, he met Carlos when Carlos was his teacher at the Comodoro. He taught him nutrition.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, what was great about cooking with Carlos is Carlos showed me a, authentic dish, and I think it was the langosta de enchilada. And then I showed him a dish of New Orleans because when I watched him do the process, it was almost identical to something like we call shrimp creole.
Lo que hicieron fue